Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to another episode of News Dose, where I keep you up to date with everything happening in the game industry. And today, Sony finally talked about the PlayStation 5. And no, it wasn't about a logo or anything. Instead, they officially announced that they will be revealing the PlayStation 5 in all of its glory tomorrow. And I'm sure fans are salivating to know what they're going to show. But what exactly will they be showing? What should we expect in this type of reveal? Well, we will be talking about just that and what you should expect from Sony tomorrow when we finally get our first details on the upcoming PlayStation 5. We also had a Nintendo Indie World Direct today, and they had a lot of games that I think Nintendo fans should be paying attention to, so we will take a glimpse into that as well, plus plenty more. To start off the episode though, we have some good news for virtual reality fans as Beat Saber has went on to sell 2 million copies worldwide. Now I know that VR still isn't really mainstream or anything, but 2 million copies sold worldwide is a big achievement for any type of game, especially a virtual reality game. And by this point, I do think that Beat Saber has become a bit of a poster child for VR headsets. I once called it the best rhythm game since Guitar Hero, and I stand behind that statement. Beat Saber truly is a blast to play, and anybody can really enjoy it. Every time I've ever had anybody over and we talk about VR games, that's always the first game that I show, and every time people are just blown away by that game. It's such a fun game to play. And hey, as an added bonus, they will also be adding a new Timbaland music pack that will have 5 songs that were specially written for Beat Saber. So let's get back to Beat Saber and have some more fun in what I can best describe as Jedi DJ Masters. In other news, we got several big game releases over the next couple weeks, and their reviews are all starting to roll out now. This includes Doom Eternal, Animal Crossing New Horizons, and Persona 5 Royal, which I am glad to say are all performing extremely well in terms of their reviews. As of the time of this video, Persona 5 Royal sits at 96 on Metacritic, and Animal Crossing as well as Doom Eternal both sit at 90. This isn't even mentioning the fact that Ori and the Will of Wisps as well as Nioh 2 just released last week with high scores as well. Ori is at 90 and Nioh 2 with an 86, so honestly, this has been a fantastic month for new games. And it doesn't seem like it will be slowing down either, because next month we have Final Fantasy VII Remake and Resident Evil 3 Nemesis coming as well. I mean, the year of 2020 may not have gotten off to a good start overall, but in terms of gaming, the month of March and April are absolutely huge. Hopefully you will find a game or two in this list that excites you, but I'm always up for a good game, and hey, maybe you're self-quarantined, and if you are, there is plenty of good games out there to check out. And speaking of good games, yes, Nintendo did announce several new indie games today in their Indie World Direct. I mean, I guess they technically aren't really calling it a direct, but it's the best way I can describe it, and yeah, they had a lot of really good games that I think you may want to pay attention to. In fact, they revealed 22 new independent games that are coming to the Switch this year. I believe it's 22, I'll have to recheck that, but many of which are timed exclusives to the Nintendo Switch. And I'm not going to go over all 22 of these games, but I will include a picture of the list for all of these games. However, I do want to highlight a few of these games that looked especially great, including Blue Fire, which is a 3D action platformer. The 3D platforming in this one looked very precise, but what surprised me about this one was that its combat looked pretty good as well. It kind of gave me some Dark Souls vibes, though by this point, I mean, what doesn't? The Souls games have just inspired every developer in the industry, it seems, but nonetheless, Blue Fire looks like a good 3D platformer, and honestly, we really don't have too many good 3D platformers anymore, so this will be a welcome addition to the Switch library. You can expect it sometime during the summer as a Switch timed exclusive. Now this next one from a visual standpoint looks excellent, which is a JRPG by the name of Baldo. It almost looks like Ni no Kuni in a way with that Studio Ghibli art style, though they're just simply describing it as an anime style game. The thing is though, the gameplay looks really good as well. It has puzzles, dungeons, and it's supposed to have a good story on top of all that. The combat almost looks like a Zelda game, and really, I think the entire game kind of has that Zelda-esque feel to it, and maybe there was some inspiration there, but Baldo seems like it's a lot more than pretty to look at. Hopefully the gameplay can hold its end of the bargain, and if so, Baldo may end up being a special game to look out for, which is also available for this summer. Oh, and Hello Games announced their new game for the Switch as well. Hello Games, of course, is the developer most known for No Man's Sky, and even though the original release of No Man's Sky didn't completely meet everybody's expectations, in the long run it ended up turning into a great game. Well, their next game looks to be a little scaled back, but with an emotional driven story, and I think it looks really good as well. This would be the Last Campfire, of course, and you kind of see it's aiming to be a little bit more on the artsy side of things, and I know not everybody likes that word, but what I mean by that is that they are certainly trying to convey certain emotions with the Last Campfire, and I think the art style was really good looking in this game, but hopefully it will reach your heart. Like I said, I think it's kind of trying to be an emotional type game. We don't know too much about it just yet, but you can kind of see that the little character you play as could possibly be alone in a desolate world where he's traveling and may be able to bring back some of these other little creatures back to life. At least that's what it looked like to me. I mean, you actually see a skeleton of one of them. I mean, there's obviously some dead ones, but it does look like an emotional story. I mean, I'm just basing this off the trailer I saw today, but I thought it looked really good, and I do think that Hello Games is a good developer, so I'll certainly check this one out when it releases. Now, the last game I want to highlight is Exit of Gungeon, and that's because I know there is a lot of Enter the Gungeon fans out there. I made a top 25 indie list for the Nintendo Switch, and I can't tell you how many people in the comments has recommended me to go check out Enter the Gungeon, so obviously it is a bit of a fan favorite. And the sequel, Exit the Gungeon, does look excellent, I must say. The cool thing here, though, is that Exit the Gungeon releases today, so you don't even have to wait for this one. Go check this one out because, well, it looks like a lot of fun. So as soon as you finish this video, go run over, pick up your Switch, and check out Exit the Gungeon. But that is the thing about this Direct, though. I may not have talked about every game that was shown here because I would have had to talk a good hour probably, but there was a lot more shown. Ghost of a Tale and Blair Witch is coming to the Switch, which both had some success on other consoles. I would especially recommend Ghost of a Tale, which is a really good stealth game. I actually put that on my top 15 hidden gems for the Xbox One. There's also Bark, a cool-looking side-scrolling shooter, and you have Swery65, which announced his next game is coming over to the Switch, The Good Life. Now that's one that I've been paying attention to for a while now because Swery65 does make some really interesting and wacky games. The Good Life literally has you turning into animals at night and is being described as a death simulator RPG, so yeah, I mean, it seems about as weird as you would expect. There was also Summer of Mara, a farming simulator which always has a lot of potential. I mean, you have things like Stardew Valley, you had Freak Apocalypse that was there, that was like an odd adventure game, and hey, you even got a new Pixel Junk game which was announced for the Switch, so yeah, the Switch is looking to have another great year for indie games, and I personally can't wait to try out some of these. I've always thought the Switch was a great indie platform, and I mean, this preview of these games is just very telling of that. They consider indie games important for the Switch, and there's a lot of great Switch games here, so you have a lot to look forward to over just the next few months. Let me know though, out of all the games that was announced today, what were you most excited for? Let me know in the comments below. Now moving on, because we do have one more thing to talk about, and that is the PlayStation 5. Yes, that's right, the PlayStation 5 will finally be revealed tomorrow by Mark Cerny himself, and that begs the question, what should we expect at this reveal? Well, because it is Mark Cerny, the architect behind the PlayStation 5, this will likely be a complete breakdown of the specs, and I wouldn't expect too much more than that. We may see what the PlayStation 5 looks like and some new features, but don't go expecting too much more, maybe a controller reveal. We likely won't get the price, the release date, or any new games. However, them showing the power of the PlayStation 5 is big enough, which is interesting considering this reveal is only 2 days after Xbox had announced the Series X specs. There has been a narrative for a while now that the Xbox Series X will be the most powerful console on the market, and Microsoft themselves seems to be very confident with Xbox Series X. So to this point, there has really been no reason not to believe this. However, Sony revealing the PlayStation 5 specs only 2 days after the Xbox Series X specs were revealed, could Sony come out and surprise everybody with the PlayStation 5 and its power? The timing of this announcement surely seems like Sony is pretty confident as well. I mean, we know that Xbox seems to be confident, but PlayStation 5 only doing this 2 days afterwards, it does signify that they're pretty confident with the PlayStation 5. I've kind of always been in favor of Xbox when it comes to raw power, but I do think that the PlayStation 5 will be the fastest console, and I think that their load times will win on that front, but who knows? Maybe Sony will come out and surprise everybody, or maybe they just can't let people talk about Xbox's power anymore because they really have controlled the narrative. I mean, Xbox has controlled the narrative, and I mean, Sony may need to change the narrative to something else. It's hard to tell, but it's been really hard to gauge what Sony has been doing with the PlayStation 5. They have been radio silent up till this point, and quote-unquote insiders have been all over the place with the PlayStation 5. By this point, I've seen PlayStation 5 be placed anywhere from 9.2 teraflops of GPU power all the way up to 13.3 teraflops, and it's kinda hard to tell what's true and what isn't by this point. I guess we'll have to find out tomorrow, but do remember that teraflops is not the only important factor. I know a lot of console warriors really do focus on this, but there is other factors when it comes to consoles. We do need to take into consideration on some of the other things that's in these consoles as well as their features. One way or the other though, we will finally be getting the PlayStation 5 reveal tomorrow, which is such a sigh of relief. No more rumors, we're getting the official announcement, and we will know who leads the power battle into next generation. Will it be the Xbox Series X, or will it be the PlayStation 5? Or maybe they'll be similar in terms of power. Beyond just power though, I do think that Sony will likely show at least one more thing that many people aren't really talking about right now, and that is the controller, and that will be interesting to see. Now, if you've been following the channel for a while, it really feels like I'm talking about the PlayStation 5's new controller and the patents on a weekly basis. It sounds like Sony is trying to add all kinds of new technology into the DualShock 5, from biometrics that can detect your heart rate to an AI assistant that can give you suggestions on the games that you're playing. I mean, even to the point that it will suggest microtransactions, which I still hope isn't actually a thing. I hope that did not make it into the full release of this controller. Regardless, by this point, I want to know what actually made it into the DualShock 5, and maybe they will talk about some of those things tomorrow as well. That also begs the question about the next PlayStation virtual reality headset, though I think they'll show that on a different date. I mean, I wouldn't completely rule it out, but I think that they'll primarily focus on the power of the PlayStation 5 and some new features, kind of like what Xbox did, showing load times side by side with the Xbox One X, and then maybe you'll see the DualShock 5 controller. Regardless though, I will ask you, what do you expect from the PlayStation 5? Do you think Sony will come out and surprise the world? Can it possibly be more powerful than the Series X? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways though, that's it for this video, but if you liked the video, don't forget to hit the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Peace out.